All right, let's dive into a skill that is without a doubt one of the most important things you can master in today's world, the art of thinking. We're not going to talk about what to think. Nah, we're going to explore how to think, how to do it effectively, creatively, and critically.
I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. We are absolutely swimming in a sea of information. Every day, it's just a constant flood of data, opinions, news, you name it. It's literally impossible to know everything. So if we can all agree that learning everything is off the table, what are we even doing here? What's the real goal?
And boom, this quote right here just nails it. The real prize, the actual value you get from learning anything, isn't just cramming your head full of facts. It's about building the mental machinery, the thought processes that let you make sense of any information that comes your way, now or in the future.
So this is the big shift we have to make in our minds. We need to move away from just collecting facts, from knowing what, and start focusing on knowing how. How to think logically, how to think for yourself, and how to think creatively. This idea is the foundation for, well, everything else we're about to cover.
Okay, so how do we actually build this mental machinery? Well, it all starts with 4 fundamental thinking processes. You can think of these as the 4 main engines that power your brain. Let's take a look.
First up, you've got critical thinking. This is like your own personal built-in baloney detector. It's the skill you fire up to look at an argument, to figure out what's real and what's not, and to understand what all this information actually means. It's that little voice in your head that sees a crazy headline and immediately goes, where's the source on that?
Next, we have creative thinking. And if critical thinking is all about analyzing what already exists, well, creative thinking is about imagining what could exist. It's your engine for innovation. It's about generating totally new ideas, connecting the dots in ways nobody else has. It's that spark of genius that lets you solve an old problem in a completely new way.
And then there's problem solving. This is where the rubber really meets the road. It's the skill of facing a challenge, figuring out what's really going on, and then laying out a step-by-step plan to fix it. Like when your internet dies. You don't just sit there, right? You check the router, you restart the modem, you check the outage map. That whole logical process, that's problem solving in action.
And finally, we have decision-making, which kind of pulls all of these other processes together. I mean, every day you're faced with choices. To make a good one, you have to use critical thinking, maybe a little creative thinking, and some problem solving to weigh all your options, and finally, commit to the best path forward. So, those 4 are the big picture processes, the main engines. But what about the specific tools inside the toolbox? What are the actual gears that make those engines run? Well, it turns out we can break it down into 8 essential skills that make up your core mental toolkit.
And here they are. This whole table basically breaks down thinking into concrete actions. So, take a look. Focusing, that's just your ability to tune out the noise. Generating is when you go beyond the info you were given and add your own unique ideas. And evaluating, that's your quality control, where you judge how good an idea really is. These are the tools you're using all day, every day, probably without even noticing it.
Okay, so having a fancy toolkit is great and all, but it's pretty useless if it just sits on a shelf collecting dust, right? So let's talk about how to actually use these skills, how to put them into practice and really build up your thinking muscles.
The key thing to remember is that thinking isn't some fuzzy, abstract art. It's a structured process. And 2 of the most powerful ways to train these thinking skills, to really put them through their paces, are reading and writing.
So here it is, a simple but incredibly effective 3-step workout for your brain. Step 1, you read something, and you're not just scanning, you're actively trying to find the main ideas. Step 2, you analyze it. You go deeper, you compare what different people are saying, you look for any bias. And then step 3, you write. You actually form your own argument and back it up with evidence. This whole process forces you to open up that toolkit and use pretty much every tool inside.
And that last step, writing, is just a powerhouse for activating these skills. It forces you to separate what's a fact from what's just an opinion, to judge how strong an argument is, and to build your own case. You got to remember, writing isn't just about communicating the ideas you already have. It's the very process of forging them into existence.
This quote just perfectly captures the spirit of this whole thing. Whether it's a teacher in a classroom or just you learning on your own, the goal isn't to be spoon-fed the answers. The goal is to get the tools and the opportunity to draw your own conclusions. That, right there, is what true independent thinking is all about.
So, we've got the tools, and we've got a workout plan. But how do we track our progress? How do we know if we're getting better? Well, let's look at a classic framework that lays out the entire path, from being a novice to becoming an expert thinker.
First, we need to understand that there are 2 basic levels. We all start with what are called lower-order thinking skills, or LOTS for short. This is your foundation. It's about remembering facts and basic concepts. But the goal, the real destination, is to get to higher-order thinking skills, or HOTS. This is where you really start to fly, analyzing, evaluating, and even creating new knowledge.
And that brings us to this, one of the most famous models in all of education, Bloom's taxonomy. It's set up like a pyramid for a reason. You have to start at the bottom with basic stuff like remembering. Then you climb your way up through understanding, applying, analyzing, and evaluating, all the way to the very peak, which is creating. Every single level rests on the one below it.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that you can't just parachute into the top of the pyramid. The journey to becoming a truly great thinker is about building that solid foundation first. You have to master remembering and understanding so you have the raw materials you need to analyze, to evaluate, and ultimately to create something new and amazing.
So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Take another look at that mental toolkit, think about that pyramid, and just ask yourself a simple question. Which one of these skills are you going to consciously practice today? Because here's the thing. Mastering the art of thinking doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice.